Today, I stand before you at a pivotal moment in our nation's history. As our enemies hide beneath the shadows of terror and mislead the world with lies, we must act decisively to shift the tide of this conflict. Israel has spent nearly 2 continuous years defending itself against Hamas's assault, an existential threat that began on October 7, 2023. Since then, more than 61,000 Palestinian lives have been lost, entire neighborhoods reduced to rubble, and humanitarian suffering has deepened disastrously. Israel's new approach makes the complete dismantling of Hamas's military and administrative capabilities the foremost priority. This is not limited to targeting fighters on the ground, but extends to striking the organization's command structures, financial networks, weapon supply chains, and tunnel infrastructure. The aim is to ensure that Hamas will no longer be able to operate as a governing or fighting force in Gaza. This requires a sustained and methodical campaign that combines intelligence-led precision strikes with coordinated ground operations. The plan also places a heavy emphasis on disrupting Hamas's communications and isolating its leadership, thereby weakening its ability to direct operations or maintain control over territory. By removing Hamas's capacity to project power, Israel seeks to create conditions in which the group can no longer dictate the security environment or threaten Israeli civilians, allowing space for a new, nonviolent governance framework to emerge. The rescue of hostages is positioned as one of the most urgent and morally compelling drivers of Israel's new strategy. Every operational decision, from the timing of offensives to the positioning of troops, is calibrated with this objective in mind. Intelligence agencies are tasked with pinpointing the precise locations of captives, many of whom are believed to be held in a network of fortified tunnels or concealed within densely populated civilian areas. Military maneuvers aim to apply calculated pressure on Hamas, cutting off escape routes and supply lines to reduce its leverage, while simultaneously creating tactical openings for safe extraction operations. Negotiation channels, direct and indirect, are kept open to exploit any opportunities for prisoner exchanges, though these are pursued in parallel with a broader military campaign to ensure that the fate of the hostages is not solely dependent on diplomatic progress. Special Forces units trained in high-risk rescue missions remain on standby for rapid deployment the moment actionable intelligence emerges, underscoring the centrality of the hostages' return in the overall strategy. The establishment of security and buffer zones is intended to fundamentally change the operational landscape in Gaza, limiting Hamas's freedom of movement and its ability to stage attacks. These zones, such as the recently implemented Morag Corridor, are designed to physically divide and isolate different parts of the territory, making it harder for Hamas to coordinate forces, move weapons, or conceal high-value targets. By controlling strategic corridors and access points, Israeli forces can disrupt supply chains, prevent the regrouping of militant units, and maintain persistent surveillance over critical areas. The presence of these zones also allows the military to conduct operations with reduced risk of surprise counterattacks, as they create controlled environments in which hostile elements can be more easily identified and neutralized. This approach is framed as a temporary measure, but it is a critical tool for applying continuous pressure on Hamas while enabling humanitarian corridors and aid distribution under secure conditions. The ultimate goal is to ensure that even after the current offensive, Hamas cannot easily reconstitute its operational capabilities or re-establish dominance over the population. Humanitarian access within the new strategy is structured to continue even amid intensified military operations, but under a framework designed to prevent aid from being diverted to Hamas or used to sustain its operations. Designated safe zones and controlled entry points are established to channel relief supplies directly to civilians, with security forces overseeing the process to ensure compliance. This controlled approach includes thorough inspection of shipments, monitoring of distribution routes, and coordination with vetted humanitarian organizations capable of operating under strict conditions. The rationale is to alleviate suffering while maintaining operational security, but the measures inevitably slow down delivery times and restrict the scale of assistance that can be provided at once. Critics warn that these limitations, combined with ongoing combat, risk deepening the humanitarian crisis by limiting access to essential food, water, and medical supplies. Supporters of the plan argue that such precautions are necessary to avoid inadvertently strengthening Hamas's position, stressing that humanitarian efforts must operate alongside, and not in place of, the military mission to dismantle the group's power. The long-term vision centers on replacing Hamas's rule in Gaza with a civilian administration that can govern without ties to militant activity. This would require dismantling the current political and security structures under Hamas's control and creating space for alternative leadership, potentially backed by Arab states or international partners willing to oversee a transitional phase. The process is envisioned to include establishing local governance bodies capable of managing essential services such as healthcare,